bits. This is a parting tool. Depending on what you're doing, you might be doing some parting. You might cut it with a bandsaw and face it off. But ability with the quick change tool post holders, you can get all these holders and just have all your bits in there. You know exactly the size you adjusted at your height level, and just pop it in and put it in there. Now with this one, to get the center line, basically just make a few cuts and you're adjusting the height with this knob here, and once you get it in place, it's pretty good. As your bit wears out, you may have to adjust it or just change your bit, but you can always adjust it, as opposed to the other one. You got to stack some shims underneath it, and it's always hard to get the exact height there. So like I said, when your budget allows, you should definitely look into getting one of those. Alright, we're going to switch it over to we're going to do some turning operations just to show you how that works. So basically I got to tighten this down here, and when I turn, I'm just going to angle that bit a little bit differently. Loosen it with your hex wrench there, and yeah, and there's things to learn about the angle, but you just want the tip hitting here, and lock that into place. And that should be a good angle for the turning operation. Alright, we'll get that set up and we'll come right back. Okay, now when you're ready to do some turning, which means you're reducing the diameter of the shaft, you're taking metal off of it, you got to consider whether you're working with a longer piece such as this, or a short piece which is only extending you about 3 times its diameter, which in this case would be about 1.5 inches. If you're doing a longer piece, what you're going to need to do is face it off, drill a starter hole, and that's where you'd use your live center, and you'd have to stabilize it that way. We're going to start with a short piece, so we're going to chuck that in there. And again, about 1.5 inches out. Tighten that up all 3 positions. Okay. And turning, you're going to be using your carriage hand wheel, as opposed to when you were facing, you're using your cross slide X and Y. Here you're going to use your cross slide back and forth, but you can turn using this handle. You can still turn using your cross slide handle for shorter cuts, but with the power feed, it's using your carriage hand wheel. So we'll do it with the carriage hand wheel. So you're going to leave that in the off position. Put your protective guard down, turn it on, about 600 RPMs. I'm just going to shave a little bit off. Try to keep as steady a motion as possible. Truth is, it's hard to get a really smooth finish with using the hand wheel, using hand feed. Take a little bit more off. Back. Keep taking a little bit off, and we'll reduce the diameter of this. Okay, so right now I'm doing it using my hand. Now I'll show you when you use the power feed, when you're turning, you get a much smoother finish. Okay, so you see here we're starting to reduce the diameter. Take a little bit more off by hand. turn it off. Okay, now I'm going to engage the power feed by the lever in the back, and you're going to be doing the left feed, which means you're bringing it up. I'm sorry, right feed. You get that lined up. You can take a little bit off. Okay, so now the power feed is on, and the lever is disengaged. Now when we turn it on, it's not going to start moving until we engage the lever. And turn it on 600 RPMs. I'll put down the lever, and you'll see it'll do it by itself now. If I had it going in the right direction, it would help. Doing a left feed, like I said. Okay, now you see it moving by itself. And you get a much smoother finish with the power feed. You gotta be careful, it doesn't stop by itself, so when you get to your position, you gotta disengage the lever and then bring it back by hand. So I'm going to stop it right about now. Bring it back by hand. Bring it in about another 10,000. Do it again. And, you'll do this as many times depending on what you're doing. But again, as you see with the power feed, especially with turning, you get a much smoother finish. You can clean up the end by hand. Bring that back. And I'm going to bring it in just a tiny bit, crank it up. That'll give you a really smooth finish. So depending on what you're doing, and you can clean up the end here with a different bit that is a little bit more square of a cut here. But we reduced diameter, we started it by hand, and then we showed you the power feed. Now the power feed is great when you're doing the longer pieces. With the longer pieces, when you're just shaving off a tiny bit, or you really want to ground the piece, it works well. It really does. And again, but you'd have to face it off, drill a center hole, and with a live center. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is drill and tap a hole in the shaft here. Okay, so I got my drill chuck in there. One of the problems with this little lathe is sometimes you don't have enough working room. You don't want to get rid of your tool here. You can take that out and bring back your cross slide, get everything out of the way. Okay, first thing we're going to do is when you drill, we're going to be using this drill bit to finish off the hole, but you're going to be using a starter bit, which is called a center drill or a countersink drill. And that's just a nice, short, stiff, stubby drill that's not going to bend, and you know you're going to get a centered hole, a centered starter hole every time. So you're going to chuck that in there, get that started by hand, and you're going to want to try to tighten all three sides. Sometimes you can't reach the bottom one, and your your tailstock is loose right now, so we can move that back and forth. So your center drill's in there nice and tight. You're going to want to bring your tailstock up to about a 1/4 inch away. You got to tighten it down with the wrench. Come to the wrench. Just a 17. And again, this is where some of the stuff gets in the way. You got to move your carriage out of the way. Get that tightened down. Again, it's about a 1/4 inch out of the way, and you're going to be advancing it with your wheel here. I don't know if it's in camera view, but it's at the end.